Okay, welcome back. This is the Editors Roundtable, and we are talking about what's happened and what's likely to happen. Aman is, of course, with us from Abacus. Nimesh, but blocks, what's the pipeline looking like?
Well, that's going to be a strong pipeline, Prashant. There are still a lot of names which are still pending, and the blocks are going to come. So that supply is there. But, again, somebody just pointed out a very interesting point, which we can discuss with Aman as well. If you look at the last, like, say, 2 weeks of blocks, most of the blocks have happened at a much discount from the peak levels. Okay. For example, Ola. The peak of Ola Electric was around 140 something. After listing, it went up there. The last block happened where the PE sold, so that Hyundai sold at $50. And that's been the trend with a lot of these companies. So maybe, from a mutual fund perspective, while we all say that, they are trying to bail them out, but they're also buying at much lower levels than what it was from the peak level.
But is it true? Have you noticed that with other
is it a specific?
weaker profile companies? No?
Absolutely. With a lot of companies, that's been the case. Though this, mid-cap
The
correction
deals are happening at a discount to CMP.
At a discount to CMP, and also from the discount from the peak level. So maybe if Aman can throw some light on it. Aman, have you been participating in all these blocks? Any opportunities that you guys are finding out in the recent block deals or any of those QIPs or OFS?
Recently, we did participate in IndiGene. That's
correct.
That came in. Besides that, not much. And I'll tell you what our assessment is, why suddenly there's a rush. Prior to the correction, everybody was waiting for the party to go on, and as long as you wait, you will get a much higher valuation. Suddenly the market's corrected, and you had an ambition that I need a $10 billion valuation before I sell something, and you suddenly saw a 20, 30, 40% drawdown. That made you panic. Now there's a recovery. Now it's like, I don't want to wait for 10 billion, even if it is 8 billion, let me cash out on something before market turns volatile again. It could be Trump, it could be some other issue. Maybe today's event might change that thought process that, okay, now I can wait on, because now India is on a clear growth path, things can go better. Relatively, anyway, we are doing better. But till yesterday, the scene was this only, that let me cash on something. Earlier, I wanted to direct 20%, maybe at 10 billion. Today, let me just get 10%. Maybe at $8 billion is also okay, but let's get some cash home. It's basically cashing on, because this time around you're seeing more offer for sale than in QIP or preferred.
Yeah.
So, Aman, finally, as we get to closing comments, what's the advice? What to do now? Your market is, racing towards the all-time high. I think we're just 5% away from it at a Nifty level. Mid-cap rally has already started. Valuations is a never-ending debate. And people will wonder, and with more liquidity, if you're saving on your home loan, you'll put that money in mutual funds. So essentially, go back to the same question. Kharidna kya hai?
The sentiments definitely have turned for better. Even earlier, the major risk was global, which still stays the way things are moving in US. It's anybody's guess as to what can happen tomorrow or what can happen the next week per se. But for India, clearly things are now getting back on shape. The slowdown that we saw last year, things have started to move up. Government has decisively acted. RBI has decisively acted. So there is no reason to be bearish on India, right? So now the only call is that at what valuation you are comfortable with. So for us, something like a chemicals, besides the obvious financial banking which I discussed some time back, chemical sector is looking good. EP sector is looking good. In some pockets, your engineering companies are looking good. Maybe not a mid-cap, but a small-cap tech, that is also looking good. So wherever relatively valuations are much better than what it was 6-9 months back, or wherever growth rates can pick up, I think that's what investors will start looking at again.
So you asked Aman on abhi lena kya hai. I was expecting that he will say hamare fund le lo, Abacus ka fund le lo. So
but he gave a flavor of, I think, the areas that they like.
But Aman, you said you mentioned basically
chemicals
for the next few weeks, financials should rule the roost, right?
Yeah.
Sentiment should be quite buoyant and positive. And you specifically also mentioned PSU banks right in the beginning, right? PSU banks.
The mid-cap PSU bank, because the large-cap PSU banks have done up. Now, see, it's going to be a catch-up rally. Fundamentally, if you ask me, will I buy a mid-cap PSU bank in my portfolio? No. But for an investor who wants some momentum, some quick returns, where relative valuation is still supportive, then yeah, it's going to be a mid-cap PSU bank, where people will start coming in because something has already moved up. Now, what is going to happen is, what has not moved up is what's going to move up. That is what is maybe happening in railways also. Same thing can happen in financials also.
And today, by the way, we were firing the graphic. The Nifty PSU index is up only 0.5%.
It's flat.
So even today, it's all been SBI card and mutual fund companies and housing finance companies, NBFCs.
Gold financiers.
Aman is saying PSU banks, mid-tier PSU banks from here.
Okay, so that's the specific takeaway, some ideas that you can look at when you examine your portfolios. Aman, great conversation as always. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this week. And with that, it's curtains from the entire team that puts Editors Roundtable together. Thank you very much for watching. Do stay tuned. News and updates continue on CNBC TV18.